I married the man I cheated with, but he prioritizes his kids over our marriage. My story. I cheated with a married man and married him, but he still spends all his time with his kids, who. Family dynamics can be complex and often fraught with personal struggles that shape our relationships. In the video, we delve into the intricate experiences of individuals who have navigated the challenging waters of favoritism and emotional neglect within their families. These themes resonate deeply, as many viewers may find themselves reflecting on their own familial experiences, recognizing the subtle yet profound impact that such dynamics can have on their emotional well-being. The stories shared in the video highlight how favoritism can create rifts between siblings, leading to feelings of inadequacy and resentment. Emotional neglect, on the other hand, can leave lasting scars, as individuals grapple with the absence of support and validation from their loved ones. The tone of the video is intentionally relatable and thought-provoking, inviting viewers to consider their own family narratives and the ways in which these dynamics have influenced their lives. By sharing these personal journeys, the video encourages a deeper understanding of the emotional complexities that often accompany family relationships. It emphasizes the importance of addressing these issues, not only for personal healing, but also for fostering healthier connections within families. As viewers engage with the content, they are prompted to reflect on their own experiences, potentially uncovering feelings they may have long suppressed. The emotional journey depicted in addressing the impact of being the overlooked sibling requires introspection and open communication within the family. It is essential to acknowledge the feelings of those who may have been undervalued, and to create an environment where every family member feels seen and appreciated. By fostering a culture of support and recognition, families can work towards healing the wounds created by favoritism and emotional neglect. Ultimately, understanding the dynamics of the golden child can pave the way for healthier relationships, allowing siblings to celebrate each other's successes and build a stronger familial bond. Through empathy and open dialogue, families can break the cycle of favoritism and create a more balanced and nurturing environment for all members. The family cruise vacation invitation arrived with a sense of excitement that quickly turned sour for me. As my parents enthusiastically shared the details, I felt a familiar knot tighten in my stomach. It wasn't just the idea of a vacation that bothered me. It was the unfairness of the arrangements that left me feeling excluded. My brother, James, had been the focal point of the planning, with my parents discussing his preferences for activities and destinations, while I was left on the sidelines, barely acknowledged. The cruise was framed as a family bonding experience, yet it felt more like a celebration of James's achievements, a chance for my parents to showcase their golden child. I couldn't shake the feeling that my presence was merely an afterthought, a box to check off in their family vacation plans. As the days passed, my feelings of exclusion intensified. I watched as my parents excitedly prepared for the trip, packing James's favorite snacks and discussing the excursions he wanted to try. Meanwhile, I felt invisible, my own interests and desires completely overlooked. I had hoped for a chance to contribute to the planning, to express my own excitement about the vacation, but every time I tried to engage, the conversation would quickly shift back to James. It was as if my voice didn't matter, and that realization stung deeply. The thought of spending an entire week on a cruise, feeling like a mere spectator in my own family, was unbearable. After much contemplation, I made the difficult decision to decline the invitation. I realized that prioritizing my own happiness was essential, even if it meant stepping away from family obligations. I had spent years feeling overshadowed and undervalued, and I knew that this vacation would only amplify those feelings. Instead of forcing myself into a situation where I would feel excluded and resentful, I chose to take a stand for my own well-being. I decided to spend that week focusing on activities that brought me joy, whether it was diving into a new book, exploring my hobbies, or simply enjoying some much-needed solitude. It was a choice that felt empowering, albeit bittersweet. When I shared my decision with my parents, their reactions were immediate and intense. My mother's face fell, her disappointment palpable. But it's a family vacation. As the days passed and my family prepared for the cruise without me, the emotional fallout became increasingly apparent. My parents' anger morphed into a palpable sense of loss, and I could see it reflected in their interactions with each other. The excitement that had once filled our home was replaced by a heavy silence, and I felt the weight of my decision pressing down on me. I had hoped that my choice would lead to a deeper understanding of my needs, but instead, it seemed to have driven a wedge between us. I found myself grappling with feelings of guilt, wondering if I had been selfish in prioritizing my happiness over family obligations. The complexity of family loyalty weighed heavily on my mind, and I questioned whether I had betrayed my family by choosing to step away. In the midst of this turmoil, I sought solace from friends and online communities. I shared my story with those close to me, hoping for validation and support. To my surprise, many of my friends understood my decision and applauded my courage to prioritize my own well-being. "You have to look out for yourself," one friend said, her voice reassuring. "If you're not happy, how can you be there for anyone else?" Their encouragement helped me feel less isolated in my choice, but I still couldn't shake the nagging feeling of regret that lingered in the back of my mind. Online commenters offered a mixed bag of perspectives. Some praised my decision, emphasizing the importance of self-advocacy and the need to break free from toxic family dynamics. Others, however, criticized me for not valuing family time, suggesting that I was being overly dramatic. "You'll regret missing out on these moments," one commenter wrote. "Family is everything." Their words stung, and I found myself oscillating between feeling empowered and feeling guilty. The conflicting opinions only added to my internal struggle, as I tried to reconcile my desire for independence with the societal expectation of unwavering family loyalty. As the cruise date approached, I found myself reflecting on the consequences of my choice. I had anticipated some backlash, but the depth of my parents' anger and disappointment was more profound than I had imagined. I missed them, and the thought of them enjoying a vacation without me felt like a cruel twist of fate. I envisioned them laughing and bonding, creating memories that I would never be a part of. The fear of being forgotten, of becoming a mere footnote in our family history, gnawed at me. I longed for connection, yet I also craved the freedom to assert my own identity. In the quiet moments of reflection, I began to understand the complexity of family loyalty. It wasn't just about being physically present. It was about emotional connection and mutual respect. I realized that my decision to skip the vacation was not an outright rejection of my family, but rather a step toward establishing boundaries that honored my feelings. I wanted my parents to recognize that loyalty could take many forms, including the courage to speak up for oneself. Yet, the emotional fallout from my choice made it clear that this journey toward understanding would not be easy. As the days turned into weeks, I continued to grapple with my feelings of regret and the consequences of my decision. I missed my family, and the distance between us felt insurmountable at times. I hoped that, in time, my parents would come to understand my perspective and recognize the importance of acknowledging each family member's needs. I wanted to believe that this experience could ultimately lead to healing and growth, not just for me, but for all of us. The road ahead seemed uncertain, but I held on to the hope that my choice would pave the way for a more balanced and compassionate family dynamic in the future. The ongoing struggle with parental expectations and the desire for validation has been a defining aspect of my life, deeply intertwined with my relationship with my brother, James. From a young age, I felt a persistent sense of inadequacy when the journey towards self-acceptance and establishing boundaries was not without its difficulties. I faced moments of doubt and guilt, questioning whether I was being selfish for prioritizing my own happiness. The fear of disappointing my parents loomed large, and I often found myself grappling with the notion of loyalty. However, I began to understand that true loyalty to my family also meant being honest about my needs and desires. I realized that by setting boundaries, I was not rejecting my family. Rather, I was fostering healthier relationships built on mutual respect and understanding. As I continued to navigate the complexities of my relationship with my parents, I found solace in the support of friends and mentors who encouraged me to embrace my individuality. They reminded me that my worth was inherent and not contingent upon external validation. This perspective shift was transformative, allowing me to approach my family dynamics with a renewed sense of clarity. I learned to communicate my feelings openly, expressing my desire for recognition and understanding without placing blame. This shift in communication helped to bridge the gap between my parents and me, fostering a dialogue that was rooted in empathy and compassion. Ultimately, the ongoing struggle with parental expectations and the desire for validation has been a journey of self-discovery. I have come to understand that my worth is not defined by my ability to meet others' expectations, but rather by my authenticity and the courage to pursue my passions. Setting boundaries has become an essential aspect of my growth, allowing me to cultivate relationships that honor both my needs and those of my family. While the path has been fraught with challenges, I am learning to navigate the complexities of family dynamics with a sense of resilience and self-acceptance. In doing so, I hope to create a space where my family can celebrate each other's unique journeys, fostering a deeper connection that transcends the limitations of comparison and expectation. Navigating the complexities of marriage can be challenging, but when it involves blending families, the emotional landscape becomes even more intricate. This is the story of a woman, Sarah, who found herself in the midst of such a journey as she married Mark, a man with 2 children from a previous relationship. Their love story began with a whirlwind romance that quickly blossomed into a deep connection. Sarah was drawn to Mark's warmth, humor, and the way he made her feel cherished. However, she soon realized that their relationship was not just about the two of them. It was also about the children and the remnants of Mark's past life that would inevitably shape their future together. From the outset, Sarah understood that marrying Mark meant stepping into a role that was both exciting and daunting. The complexities of blending families loomed large, as she grappled with the reality of becoming a stepmother to his children, Emma and Jake. While she was eager to embrace this new chapter, the challenges of gaining acceptance from Mark's children and navigating the dynamics with his ex-wife, Lisa, weighed heavily on her. Sarah was determined to create a loving and supportive environment for everyone involved, but she quickly discovered that the road ahead would be fraught with obstacles. One of the most significant challenges Sarah faced was earning the trust and acceptance of Emma and Jake. As a stepmother, she wanted to build a strong bond with them, but she was acutely aware of the emotional turmoil they were experiencing due to their parents' divorce. The children were still processing their feelings about the separation, and the introduction of a new woman in their father's life was met with skepticism and resistance. Sarah often found herself in situations where her intentions were misinterpreted, leading to misunderstandings and hurt feelings. She wanted to be a positive influence in their lives, but the children's loyalty to their mother and their own insecurities made it difficult for them to embrace her presence. Compounding these challenges was the relationship Sarah had to navigate with Lisa, Mark's ex-wife. Lisa was understandably protective of her children and wary of Sarah's intentions. The tension between the two women was palpable, as they both sought to establish their roles within the family dynamic. Sarah often felt caught in the middle, wanting to respect Lisa's position as the children's mother while also asserting her own role as a stepmother. The emotional turmoil of this situation was overwhelming at times, as Sarah grappled with feelings of inadequacy and frustration. She longed for a sense of unity and cooperation, but the reality of their interactions often felt like a tug of war, with each party vying for control over the narrative of their blended family. As Sarah navigated these complexities, the emotional toll on her marriage with Mark became increasingly apparent. While they shared a deep love and commitment to one another, the stress of blending families began to create cracks in their relationship. Mark, caught between his responsibilities as a father and his desire to support Sarah, often found himself feeling torn. He wanted to be a good father to Emma and Jake while also being a loving husband to Sarah. This balancing act led to moments of tension and miscommunication, as both partners struggled to articulate their needs and feelings amidst the chaos of their new family dynamics. The emotional turmoil experienced in Sarah's marriage was compounded by the weight of expectations. She felt pressure to be the perfect stepmother, to seamlessly integrate into the family, and to foster a sense of harmony among everyone involved. Yet, in the early days of her marriage to Mark, Sarah was filled with hope and excitement about the possibilities of blending their families. She envisioned a harmonious household where laughter and love would flourish, and she was eager to bond with Mark's children, Emma and Jake. However, as time went on, Sarah began to feel a profound sense of neglect and invisibility in her new role. Despite her best efforts to connect with the children, she often found herself met with rejection, which only deepened her feelings of inadequacy. Sarah made numerous attempts to bond with Emma and Jake, hoping to create a sense of unity within their blended family. She organized family outings, planned fun activities, and tried to engage them in conversations about their interests. However, her efforts were often met with indifference or outright resistance. Emma, who was particularly protective of her relationship with her father, would frequently retreat to her room when Sarah tried to engage her, while Jake would respond with short, dismissive answers. Each rejection felt like a dagger to Sarah's heart, reinforcing her belief that she would never truly belong in their lives. The children's reluctance to accept her left her feeling isolated and unwanted, as if she were an intruder in a family that was not her own. The emotional impact of feeling like a second priority in Mark's life was profound. Sarah had always envisioned a partnership built on mutual support and understanding, but as Mark navigated his responsibilities as a father, she often felt sidelined. Mark's focus was understandably divided. He was dedicated to being a good father to Emma and Jake, ensuring their needs were met and their emotional well-being was prioritized. However, this dedication often came at the expense of their relationship. Sarah found herself waiting for moments of connection that rarely came, feeling like an afterthought in the grand scheme of their family life. The loneliness that accompanied this realization was suffocating, and she began to question her place in Mark's world. As the weeks turned into months, the tension between Sarah's needs and Mark's responsibilities as a father became increasingly palpable. Sarah longed for quality time with Mark, moments where they could reconnect and nurture their relationship. However, Mark's evenings were often consumed by the demands of parenting, helping with homework, attending soccer games, and managing the logistics of shared custody with Lisa, his ex-wife. While Sarah understood the importance of these responsibilities, she couldn't shake the feeling that her own needs were being overlooked. The emotional distance that grew between them left her feeling frustrated and resentful, as if she were competing for Mark's attention against the backdrop of his parental duties. In conversations with Mark, Sarah tried to express her feelings of neglect, but the discussions often ended in frustration. Mark would reassure her that he loved her and valued their relationship, but his actions spoke louder than words. He would often dismiss her concerns, believing that she simply needed to be more patient as they navigated the complexities of their blended family. This dismissal only deepened Sarah's sense of invisibility, as she felt her emotions were not being validated or understood. The more she tried to articulate her feelings, the more isolated she became, leading to a cycle of silence and resentment that threatened to unravel their marriage. The emotional toll of feeling neglected began to manifest in various ways. Sarah found herself withdrawing from social situations, feeling embarrassed about her struggles and the perception that she was failing as a stepmother and wife. She became increasingly frustrated with herself for feeling this way, questioning why she couldn't simply accept the challenges of blending families with grace. The internal conflict was exhausting, as she grappled with the desire to support Mark and his children while simultaneously yearning for the love and attention she felt she deserved. In moments of solitude, Sarah reflected on her journey and the complexities of her emotions. She recognized that her feelings of neglect were not solely about Mark's actions but also about her own expectations and desires. She had entered this marriage with a vision of what family life would look like, and the reality was starkly different. The struggle to find her place within this new family dynamic was a painful reminder of her own insecurities and the longing for validation that had followed her throughout her life. As Sarah continued to navigate the challenges of her marriage, she began to understand the importance of self-advocacy and setting boundaries. She realized that while Mark's responsibilities as a father were significant, her own needs were equally valid. It was essential for her to communicate openly about her feelings and to seek the support she needed to feel valued and loved. This realization marked a turning point in her journey, as she began to prioritize her emotional well-being and advocate for her place within the family. Ultimately, the struggle for acceptance and recognition in her marriage to Mark was a complex and ongoing journey. Sarah learned that blending families required patience, understanding, and a willingness to confront difficult. Another instance occurred during a family outing that Sarah had planned in an effort to bond with Mark and the kids. She had envisioned a day filled with laughter and connection, but the reality was far from her expectations. Mark was preoccupied with the children, attending to their every need while Sarah felt like an outsider looking in. When she attempted to engage Mark in conversation, he would often respond with half-hearted answers, his attention diverted to Emma and Jake. Afterward, when Sarah expressed her disappointment, Mark's reaction was defensive. "I was just trying to be a good dad," he replied, frustration creeping into his voice. This response only deepened Sarah's feelings of neglect, as she felt that her needs were being overshadowed by his parental responsibilities. The conflict left her feeling unheard and unimportant, as if her desire for connection was secondary to his role as a father. The challenges of communicating needs in a blended family situation were compounded by the emotional weight of Sarah's feelings. She often found herself torn between wanting to support Mark as a father and advocating for her own emotional well-being. The fear of being perceived as selfish loomed large, making it difficult for her to articulate her needs without feeling guilty. In moments of vulnerability, she would try to express her feelings, but the conversations often devolved into arguments. Mark would become defensive, insisting that he was doing his best to balance his responsibilities, while Sarah felt increasingly frustrated that her emotional needs were being dismissed. One particularly heated discussion arose after a weekend where Mark had prioritized attending Jake's soccer game over a planned date night with Sarah. She had been looking forward to spending quality time together, but when Mark informed her that he couldn't make it because of the game, she felt a surge of disappointment. When she confronted him about it later, Mark's response was to downplay her feelings. "It's just one night," he said, shrugging it off. "The kids need me." This dismissal ignited a fire within Sarah, as she struggled to understand why their marriage seemed to take a back seat to his responsibilities as a father. "I need you too, Mark," she exclaimed, her voice tinged with frustration. "I feel like I'm always second to your kids." The argument that ensued was filled with hurt feelings and misunderstandings, leaving both of them feeling more distant than before. Sarah's frustration with Mark's prioritization of his children over their marriage was a recurring theme in their relationship. She understood that being a parent was a significant responsibility, but she couldn't help but feel that their relationship was suffering as a result. The emotional toll of feeling like a second priority weighed heavily on her, and she often found herself questioning whether she was being unreasonable in her expectations. The desire for a strong partnership felt increasingly elusive, as Mark's focus remained primarily on his children's needs. In the aftermath of these conflicts, Sarah began to realize that the challenges of communication in a blended family were not solely about her feelings. They were also about the complexities of navigating multiple relationships. Mark's dedication to his children was admirable, but it often left little room for the emotional intimacy that Sarah craved. She longed for moments of connection, where they could share their thoughts and feelings without the distractions of parenting responsibilities. However, the reality was that their conversations often revolved around logistics and the needs of the children, leaving little space for their own relationship. As Sarah continued to grapple with her feelings of neglect and frustration, she recognized the importance of finding a balance between supporting Mark as a father and advocating for her own emotional needs. She understood that open communication was essential, but it required both partners to be willing to listen and engage in meaningful dialogue. The journey ahead would not be easy, but Sarah was determined to find a way to bridge the gap between her needs and Mark's responsibilities, fostering a deeper connection that honored both their roles within the family. Ultimately, she hoped that through patience, understanding, and a commitment to nurturing their relationship, they could create a loving and supportive environment for everyone involved. One particularly painful incident solidified Sarah's contemplation of this drastic change. During a family dinner, Mark received a call from Lisa, who needed to discuss a scheduling conflict regarding the kids. Sarah watched as Mark's demeanor shifted. He became attentive and engaged, his focus entirely on the conversation with his ex-wife. In that moment, Sarah felt invisible, as if she were merely a spectator in her own life. The laughter and warmth of the dinner faded into the background, replaced by a gnawing sense of exclusion. When Mark hung up, he turned to Sarah with a smile, completely unaware of the emotional turmoil brewing within her. "Lisa just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page for the kids," he said casually, as if it were a normal part of their evening. Sarah's heart sank. She felt like a ghost in her own marriage, overshadowed by the lingering presence of Mark's past. The emotional toll of feeling like an outsider began to manifest in various ways. Sarah found herself withdrawing from social situations, avoiding gatherings where she would have to interact with Lisa or face the reality of her role as a stepmother. The isolation was suffocating, and she often felt trapped in a cycle of loneliness and frustration. She yearned for a sense of belonging, for moments where she could feel valued and appreciated as Mark's partner. Instead, she felt like a constant reminder of the life Mark had before her, and the weight of that realization was crushing. Amidst this turmoil, Sarah's determination to reclaim her place in Mark's life began to take shape. She realized that she could no longer allow herself to be defined by the shadows of Mark's past. The thought of moving away became less about escaping and more about asserting her own identity and needs. She wanted to create a life where she felt valued and loved, not just as a stepmother but as a wife and partner. This realization ignited a fire within her, pushing her to confront the issues that had been simmering beneath the surface. Sarah began to take proactive steps to address her feelings of neglect and isolation. She initiated conversations with Mark about her needs, expressing her desire for more quality time together and a deeper emotional connection. While these discussions were often met with resistance, Sarah remained steadfast in her determination to be heard. She emphasized the importance of prioritizing their relationship amidst the chaos of blended family life, urging Mark to recognize that their marriage deserved attention and nurturing. In her quest to reclaim her place, Sarah also sought support from friends and family who understood the complexities of blended families. Their encouragement and validation helped her feel less alone in her struggles. She began to realize that her feelings were valid and that she had every right to advocate for her own happiness. This newfound perspective empowered her to approach her marriage with a sense of agency, rather than resignation. As Sarah continued to navigate the challenges of her marriage, she recognized that the journey ahead would not be easy. The emotional toll of feeling like an outsider had left scars, but she was determined to heal and grow. The contemplation of moving away served as a catalyst for change, prompting her to confront the issues that had been festering in her relationship with Mark. She understood that reclaiming her place in his life would require open communication, vulnerability, and a willingness to confront the complexities of their blended family. Ultimately, Sarah's journey was about more than just her relationship with Mark. It was about rediscovering her own identity and asserting her worth. The pivotal moments that led her to consider drastic changes became stepping stones toward a deeper understanding of herself and her needs. As she embraced her determination to reclaim her place in Mark's life, she held on to the hope that their marriage could evolve into a partnership built on mutual respect, love, and understanding. The road ahead would be challenging, but Sarah was ready to face it head-on, armed with the knowledge that she deserved to be seen, valued, and cherished in her own right. The stories shared throughout this narrative journey highlight several key themes that resonate deeply with anyone navigating the complexities of family dynamics and personal relationships. One of the most significant lessons learned is the importance of addressing family dynamics openly and honestly. Whether it's the struggle of feeling like an outsider in a blended family or the emotional toll of favoritism within a traditional family structure, these experiences underscore the necessity of communication. It is vital to recognize that unresolved issues can lead to feelings of neglect, resentment, and isolation. By confronting these dynamics head-on, individuals can foster healthier relationships and create a more supportive environment for everyone involved. Another crucial theme that emerges from these stories is the need to prioritize personal happiness. In both narratives, the protagonists grapple with the challenge of balancing their own emotional needs with the expectations placed upon them by family members. The journey towards self-advocacy is not always easy, but it is essential for maintaining one's sense of identity and well-being. The characters' realizations about their worth and the importance of setting boundaries serve as powerful reminders that personal happiness should never be sacrificed for the sake of familial obligations. By prioritizing their own needs, they ultimately pave the way for more fulfilling relationships, both with themselves and with their loved ones. As viewers reflect on these stories, it is important to consider their own family relationships and the dynamics at play within them. Are there patterns of favoritism or emotional neglect that need to be addressed? Are there boundaries that could be established to create a healthier balance between personal needs and family obligations? These questions can serve as a starting point for meaningful conversations and self-reflection. By taking the time to evaluate their own experiences, viewers can gain valuable insights into their relationships and identify areas for growth and improvement. Setting boundaries is a recurring theme that deserves special attention. The characters in these narratives demonstrate, in addition to these themes, the stories shared also emphasize the importance of empathy and compassion within family relationships. Understanding that everyone has their own struggles and insecurities can foster a sense of connection and support. By approaching family dynamics with empathy, individuals can create an environment where open communication thrives and everyone feels valued and heard. This compassionate approach can lead to deeper connections and a greater sense of belonging within the family unit. As we conclude this exploration of family dynamics and personal struggles, we invite viewers to subscribe to the channel for more relatable stories and discussions on family and relationships. Each narrative shared serves as a reminder that we are not alone in our experiences. Many individuals face similar challenges and emotions. By joining this community, viewers can engage in meaningful conversations, share their own stories, and gain insights from others who are navigating the complexities of family life. In summary, the key themes and lessons learned from these stories revolve around the importance of addressing family dynamics, prioritizing personal happiness, and setting boundaries. By reflecting on their own relationships and embracing the lessons shared, viewers can take proactive steps toward creating healthier, more fulfilling connections with their loved ones. The journey may be challenging, but it is also an opportunity for growth, understanding, and ultimately, a deeper sense of belonging. We encourage everyone to continue exploring these themes and to join us in future discussions that celebrate the intricacies of family and relationships. Together, we can foster a community of support, empathy, and shared experiences that enrich our lives and strengthen our connections with one another.